actually just enjoy my Friday and get outside, to be honest with you. But before I get started on the charts and all the data and all those things, because I know that's what you came here for, hit the subscribe button. Email me if you want something else or if you have something else that you're considering. So davidjones@windermere.com. All right, but let's get into it. So I'm going to take a look at this article that I just saw, and that's actually what kind of started me on this path of taking a look at this. So this is from the AP News. Sellers outnumber prospective home buyers as high prices and mortgage rates skew the housing market. So this is out of Los Angeles AP. It says, as of April, the U.S. housing market had nearly 34% more sellers than buyers shopping for a home. And I want to preface this by saying, like, April was a really tough market. So you had Liberation Day on April 2nd, and that played a role in like, I believe, in the whole market in all the markets, and with the tariff talk and all that other kind of stuff. So to me, and what we saw, and I'll show you a chart later, is that the April and the April can't even talk, Liberation Day, basically had a really big impact on that month. And so then it feels like the spring market has kind of taken a 3 to 4 week pause, and then we got back into it. Now, that's not to say that there wasn't homes being put on the market and things at that time. It's just that, overall, and you'll see from their data that we have our microtrend data here at the office, that we had, our actives went up and the pendings just stayed down. And then once that we got out of that kind of 3 to 4 week stretch, it started creeping back up. And you're going to see that in the charts. But here it goes. And we actually talked about this. If you haven't listened to the last podcast or watched the last live, me and Jordan, my brother, talked about what's the opportunities for buyers in this. And so now I want to talk to the sellers. Fewer buyers means less competition for home listings and more pressure on sellers to dial back their asking price and make their concessions to help get a deal done. So we did cover that on the last podcast. So we're tracking with what's going on and what the AP's reporting here. So you get the point, though. The lopsided balance between buyers and sellers is reflected in home sales, which remain in a slump going back to 2022 when mortgage rates began to climb from rock bottom lows that they reached during the pandemic. Last year, sales of previously occupied U.S. homes sank to their lowest level in nearly 30 years. Again, last year, sales of previously occupied U.S. homes sank to the lowest level in nearly 30 years. Sales fell last month to the slowest pace for the month of April going back to 2009. So that is a big one right here. So sales fell last month, April, which we said was a pretty tough one, to the slowest pace of month. Now, is that the case for Pierce County? I don't know. This is a national story, so I want to make sure that we're following that. Just because it's a national story doesn't necessarily make it true for our area. So let's go to the Pierce County area, and I'm going to take a look at some pending data reports here. So the green bars, when you look at these, the green bar is going to be today. So as of today, the number as of today, and the blue bar is going to be the date range from the first of the month to today. So that's going to be what we're looking at here. So let's go to pendings with multiple offers. I like this information because it's, like for the date range, 32% of homes had multiple offers. So anything that was pending from May 1st to today, which is May 30th, had multiple offers. So 32% of homes that were pending in that time frame. So as of today, though, so some of those homes might have closed on the 1st or the 4th or the 5th or the 7th or the 15th. So as of today, where we sit right now, that actually decreased 4%, and 28% of homes right now have multiple offers on them. So there are still homes going under multiple, that have multiple offers on them, but those are typically homes that, the location is right, the price is right, all those kinds of things. And we're going to take a look at the price too, looking at some things about the price and how we're pricing things. Because there's obviously something going on with the market right now. We need to make sure that we're talking about that and looking at that, especially as sellers. If you have something on the market right now or you're going on the market, these are all things to consider. Pendings with escalation addendum. So if there's any escalation, so I'm not considering there's not a lot. So 7% over the course of that month. And then as of today, 6% of pendings have an escalation. And that means 96% of things that are going under contract do not have an escalation. If you're a buyer, you love hearing that, because the market that we just came out of, yeah, there's all kinds of stuff going on there where we had escalations. But in this market, that's not the case. 96% do not have an escalation. So, pendings with finance addendum and special, we're going to keep going down. Active listings. Let's take a look at the listings. So about that, when we take a look at that, here, let's see, county. Let's just go with Pierce County here. So I just want to do Pierce County, not all Pierce. So I'm just going to go to Pierce County, and I'm going to take a look at just the residential and condo. So active listings for Pierce County, we had in 2024 in April, 1,191, and in 2025, 1,540, so 1,540. So that is up, and you can see over here the months of inventory that corresponds with that. So in April 24, we had 1.6 months of inventory, and April 25, we had 2.46 months of inventory. That's based on closed sales. I like looking at inventory based on pended sales, but I believe that this is based on closed sale months of inventory. But you can see that listings did go up. That's the point I'm trying to make here, is in April, listings did go up year over year. Let's go down to new listings. So new listings for April 24 and April 25. You can see here in Pierce County, we had in 2024 in April, we had 1,293 new listings. And in April 2025, we had 1,328 new listings, 1,328 new listings. So listings were up a little bit year over year, month, to the month of April. And then we have pending sales. So pending sales, we had, go back up here, we had more new listings. And then in April, we had less pendings. Now, it's not like the biggest number in the world, but still, it's still less, and we can feel that in our office and in the market in general. So we had 1,177 pendings in April 2024. In April 2025, we had 1,168. Or, I'm sorry, 1,068. Closed sales, how many closed? We can look at the chart here. So again, it's a difference of 18. Actually, it's interesting because we had 18 more close in 2025 versus 830 in 2024 of April, 848. So we had 18 more in April of 2025 there. And then months of inventory. Again, we had more months of inventory. We had 1.8 in the month of April, which, a balanced market's like 3 to 6 months, 4 to 6 months, whatever, you'll hear 4 to 6 months. I mean, 1.8 is still a seller's market in a lot of ways, but this is a weird market where it seems like it's a buyer's market though, and so that's what we're kind of in this weird place right now, actually, in the market. So 1.4 months of inventory in April of 24 and 1.8 months of inventory in 2025. So you get the median price has remained flat at 565,000 in the Pierce County year over year. So those are some interesting ones to take a look at. But I want to take a look at real quick let's get a little bit, let's dive a little bit deeper on those numbers. So let's see, I'm gonna share this tab. So this is taking a look at Pierce County. I'm sorry, this is the city of Tacoma. We're going to get a little bit more micro here. So the city of Tacoma, between $400,000 and $800,000 homes. So 400,000 to 800,000. We're going to use that range, and this is going to be for the last 90 days. So when we look at the homes that sold in the last 90 days, this is what we're looking at here. So of those homes that sold, so let's see, let's take a look how many sold altogether. Total number of sales, 609. So 609 homes sold in that time frame. So the last 90 days in Tacoma, from the price 400 to 800,000, 609 homes sold in that time frame. Of those homes, 439 of them sold within 0 to 30 days. So that's 72.909%. So 72% of homes that sold in the last 90 days in Tacoma that were between the prices of 400,000, 800,000 sold in 72.09%, or I'm sorry, sold 72.09% of those sold in 30 days. Almost 10% of those sold in the next 31 to 60 days. And then 61 to 90 days, you had 5.58% of those. And it's interesting too, when you see down here, you have 46 homes that sold over 120 days. So that's interesting to me. And typically that's going to be something that's been on the market for a long time. And you had to come down in price a little bit, and there's those get scooped up too. So I feel like, and then in 91 to 120 days is like the sweet spot where there's not as many. So I always find that fascinating right there. Typically you might be taking the home off the market and then it gets relisted or something, who knows? But the key here though is that, in that price point, in that price range, 72% sold in 0 to 30 days. So that doesn't mean everything's going to sell in 30 days. That means that, yeah, you're going to probably be waiting a little bit. If you go on the market, just prepare to be waiting a little bit if you're selling in Tacoma in that price range. So I'm going to take a look at this one. Now we're going to go in the same thing. We're in Tacoma, but we're going to go from 800,000 and up. So there's going to be less homes. That means there's 70 homes in that range. And take a look at this. So actually, this is interesting. So 800,000 and up actually increased in the homes that sold in 30 days. That's fascinating. But this is, remember, the last 90 days. So 74.29% sold in the first 30 days that were 800,000 and up in the city of Tacoma. And in the 31 to 60 days, you had 7.14%, 7.14% in 61 to 90 days. And actually, this one didn't go up at the end there, 1.43, 120 plus days. You had one. So that's interesting. This one actually fell in line and went the way that you thought it should. Whereas at the lower price point, you still had stuff going over 120 days. I found that pretty interesting. Let's move on to the next one. What do we have here? Oh, let's go to Gig Harbor. Why not? Just going to share Gig Harbor. So this is Gig Harbor, and $800,000 and up for Gig Harbor. And you have 112 homes that sold in the last 90 days. And of those, 79 of them, so 70% of them sold in the 0 to 30 days. And you had 31 to 60 days, you had 5.36% sell in that time. And again, you have this discrepancy over here where you have 120 plus days, homes that were on the for 120 plus days. So there were 11 of them sold, and that's 9.82% of the 112 that sold. So that's pretty fascinating stuff from me. Now I'm going to go to one more, or I have two more tabs here to show you before we get out of here. And what are the buyers doing? So this is a little buyer heat map of like what's going on in the area. And I just wanted to, let me see if I can zoom in on this. Yeah. So there are, let's see, active buyers. So this is about 859 buyers. Now this is just to the buyers on the platform. So it's not the biggest sample size, but it's a sample size nonetheless. It's better than trust me, bro. Trust me, so it's actual people looking in this platform, and there's 859 of them looking in this. I kind of drew out this Pierce County map. That's, it's kind of Pierce County. It's rough. But you can see here, sorry, I'm going to go in because that heat map was, so the little heat map. So you have Gig Harbor here. People are looking in Gig Harbor. People are looking in over here in Artendale. You have North Tacoma that has a really strong heat map, but then you have down here in Parkland, near Parkland, Midland, Frederickson area. Really hot down there. And then look at South Hill and South Hill, like just right below South Hill. And then you have it in Puyallup. This is interesting. So you have more out by Ording, and so it's interesting to see where the heat maps are. Browns Point, you see a lot of people out there getting pretty hot up there. But, I think that there's still, if I were to break this down to Tacoma and the hot areas that are in Tacoma, we've seen that as well. But if you want to see that, let me know. Hit me up, davidjones@windermere.com. But here's where I was talking about the square footage piece. Let's go. Top viewed listings. Oh, yeah. Recently sold listings. So this is just on the Real Scout platform that we're using here. So You can see recently sold listings. So these are the listings that were recently sold. So you have $312 average price per square foot on the homes that were sold, which I think is interesting. But look, take a look at this. Look, recently listed and updated listings. So 1536 that were listed, 2026 that had recently sold, 322 average list price per square foot. Average price per square foot at 322 for the recently listed and updated listings homes. Average price per square foot $312. $10 difference between the ones that sold and the ones that are listed. So, what does that mean to me? Well, to me, that means we might be not listing the homes at the correct prices, or at least that's just what that says. So if something's selling for $10 under square, $10 less, maybe we have to adjust pricing a little bit. That's just me being objective and looking at the numbers. I don't know. Every situation is different. Every house is different. It only depends on what your situation is. But just looking at the overall numbers, I thought that was pretty interesting. I have one last one to look at. Let's see. Let's put this up here. Did I grab it? Yeah, I did grab it. All right. This last one is let's see. It's just our absorption rate here. So at Abode, we keep track every week of, pendings and actives. So the blue is active and the red is pending. And what you see here is this is April. Remember we were talking about April, January, March. So we had March here. In March, I'm looking at it going, okay, looks like we're going into our typical spring market. The red is the actives, and those are outpacing the pendings, which means that, you want that. I mean, I don't want that if I'm a buyer. I want it to be the opposite direction. And then as you saw here, look, so Liberation Day was the 2nd of April, right? So look at this is just micro. This is a really small sample size. It does not speak for the rest of the market. I'm just telling you what we are seeing with our inventory here. And you can see here 25 to 21, 25 active and 21 pending. And then it went up to 33, 18. So now you can see the actives going up, but the pending. So this is right after Liberation Day. This is the month of April. So based on that article, you can see it took us some time to get out of this little thing in April situation. And now you can see us creeping back up to now we had the last as of 520 on 526. I take them on Mondays. So 31, we had 31 active and 33 pending. So we flipped back. But for this little stretch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks in a row, 6 weeks in a row, we had more actives than pendings. And then it just flipped just the beginning of this week. So I thought that was really interesting. Just sitting here looking at what we have here on our, in our inventory. So let me know what you think. Leave a comment or something like that. If you have a question or anything like that, please let me know. But, I think that's just interesting. Just some data that you might want to look at and consider if you have a home that's sitting on the market right now, or if you have a home that you plan on selling. I think that this is some good data to just consider and look at. And, obviously talk to your realtor, get more local granular data, because that's going to tell a better story. But I'm just trying to paint a bigger picture for what's going on in the market right now. So with that, that's the end of this episode. So hopefully you found that interesting and or informative, at worst informative, or at least informative. Yeah, I like to go live every Friday. If nothing else, we're going to have a guest on here. We'll have an Abode on here. We're going to always try to, bring some value to you, talk about the market, talk about real estate in general, or have some community stuff, talk about what's going on in the community. So with that, we'll see y'all next week. All right. Peace.